Welcome to Six Pack Discussions, where Cody and Jared take on the biggest, most talked about headlines with logic, passion, and a six pack of beer.
If you're listening, we challenge you to take an unbiased view of the world, as we know these conversations are complicated. So sit down, crack a beer, and welcome a new perspective. Okay, Jared Jones, Cody Willis here, coming in from Six Pack Discussions. Just cracked open our first beer. Grabbed this actually at Target. I had to go to Target today after work, which I don't go too often. I'm sure all the wives out there and all the ladies that are listening to us are thinking, what can I grab for a beer at Target? And you can grab Hazy Bear Hug. What a fun name. Something that you would find at Target, I feel like. What do you think?
No, not bear hug, beer hug.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. There's a bear on the can, and we'll talk about it in a second here. But it just makes your brain automatically think of bear, of course. Hazy Beer Hug. So fun play from Goose Island Beer Co. So we'll talk about it here in about 20 minutes. Jared, what are we talking about today, man?
Today we're going to be talking about stem cells. Goods, bads, magic babies, I think is one of the terms that's often been used, and
yeah,
a little bit about it.
So stem cells. If we rewound the clock 15 years, I think stem cells would have been one of the most controversial subjects in the news.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, Bush administration, which was the president at the point in time in the 2000s, stem cells and the controversy around stem cells were headline news.
Mhm.
And we'll get into the reasons why, of course. But I think nowadays, stem cells are kind of almost, I don't know, a moot point almost. It's kind of like normal.
I don't know if it's a moot point. Yeah, I would almost say I feel like it's normalized.
Normalized.
To where it's not even... Dude, honestly, I don't know about you, but I kind of found a hard time as far as like finding relevant data.
Yeah.
About this. Because it's just one of those things that's it's no different than an x-ray.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got an x-ray. Okay, yeah, you got stem cells. I mean, stem cells are used to freaking treat athletes' knees and shoulders to, create babies, right?
100%. They're all over the place. So real quick, maybe we should define what a stem cell is for anybody that is maybe heard of the word.
That's a reasonable starting place for, for a podcast, right?
But stem cells, it's very scientific. So stem cells are what they call the body's raw material. They're essentially cells which all other cells with specialized functions are generated from. So think of it as kind of like the building block that then has, it turns 18, it becomes a certain age, and it gets a job. And it says, okay, I'm going to become a muscle. I'm going to become a nerve cell. I'm going to become a liver cell. So stem cells are essentially kind of an infant, teenager, you could say, and then all of a sudden it becomes a grown-up cell, and then it becomes that type of cell for the rest of its life.
And then that's the definition off of Mayo Clinic, right?
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So one other thing that stem cells can do is create what they call daughter cells. And this is where these cells essentially reproduce additional stem cells. And so they can essentially create a stem line, I think it's considered. And so instead of becoming a muscle cell, a stem cell can just create it's like a replicate of itself through mitosis, I believe. It's called cell reproduction, where it will just copy itself, and you'll have now 2 stem cells, 3 stem cells, 4, 6, and so on. And your body does this naturally, but where this occurs most often, and maybe you can talk about, kind of the couple places that we have a lot of stem cells. I'll talk about just in adults, and then maybe talk about babies a little bit. So every one of us that's listening right now, me and Jared sitting here, we have stem cells, and a majority of them are going to be found in our bones. So in our bone marrow, there's going to be a good amount of stem cells that are produced, and they almost always turn into red and white blood cells. That's really kind of where they stem from in adults, and that's called an adult stem cell. They're a little limited in function. They can't do as much as what Jared will talk about, an embiotic, or I think another one is the tube that connects the baby.
The umbilical cord.
Umbilical cord also has stem cells.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to chat about those a little bit.
Yeah, so the umbilical cord, that was one thing that I came across in my research. Now, I don't know if maybe I'm just kind of very naive on this subject, and quite frankly, I was prior to reading a couple articles about this. But what's coming increasingly popular, I would say over the last 3 or 4 years, is this not phenomenon. What's the word I want to use here? This this strategy as far as being able to cure some of these certain types of cancers and blood disease, autoimmune disease, etc. Was cord blood.
Yeah.
You came across that?
Well, we've
No,
actually
not prior to.
well because we have kids, and so we've actually thought
Oh,
about keeping our cords. And
okay.
so, what some
Then
parents
would you say that's common or not common?
I would say maybe 1 out of 20 parents probably do that now in America.
Okay.
It's not common, but let's say maybe 5%, maybe 3% of probably parents probably do that nowadays. And the main reason being, and you can elaborate if you want to on this, but my understanding why we even looked into it is that you can take the stem cells that are in the umbilical cord and you can freeze them. You
Yeah.
essentially hire a company to freeze
Yeah,
them.
it's about I saw anywhere from about $1,000 to $2,000 for initial fee for storage, and then it's anywhere for about $150 to $200 a month.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, a year.
a year. Yeah, I think it was like $10 or $20 a month.
That sounds about right then.
Yeah, and so they freeze it, and at any point, the child or even the parents, or maybe another one of your children,
Or family members.
exactly. Maybe they get is it lymphoma?
Yeah.
What's the blood disease? Blood cancer? Is
Yeah.
it lymphoma?
It's not lymphoma, is it? I don't think so.
No,
So
but there's certain cancers that can be healed
is
with
it
those stem cells.
Is it leukemia?
Leukemia, I'm sorry.
Leukemia, yeah, leukemia.
Leukemia,
Yeah.
bone cancer, certain cancers, and also even different types of autoimmune diseases can be
Mhm.
cured with this. And so you essentially have kind of like a backup plan. If
Mhm.
your child or yourself say, hey, you know what? Holy shit, I have leukemia, or my child has leukemia. I have a whole, you know, stem cell worth or whatever you want to call it, a whole umbilical cord full of stem cells. They can take those stem cells, unfreeze them, multiply them, and then just insert them into your body in a certain way, and it will actually repair your bone marrow or whatever it may be.
If you don't mind me asking, did you guys
We didn't do it.
what was the rationale?
It's interesting. It's probably the
And again,
most.
this is very personal. If you don't
Yeah,
want to,
no, I don't care. It's probably the most ethical way to receive, and we'll get into the different ethical reasons stem cells even in the news, right, or even kind of a controversy. But I would say this is the most ethical way of harvesting or getting stem cells is through an umbilical cord, right?
I
Because
would agree with that.
right, you get a baby. There is nobody harmed or no thing harmed. The umbilical cord is going to put in the trash.
Yeah.
So in most cases, I think hospitals actually have you to sign it off, and they send it to science anyways, because someone else may get it, or researchers will get it. Or
Yeah,
you
you
can,
have the option to donate it to like a public.
yeah, exactly,
bank, if
which
you
I
will.
believe what we did. Or you can take it and freeze it. And we looked at the cost, and I think we just kind of weighed the cost, and we said, it feels like one of those things that you'll do, and then 5 years will go by, and you'll look at it just like most subscriptions, and say, okay, I think I'm done paying this $10 fee a month.
Would you almost equate this? And I didn't hear through this in the article that I was reading about this. So I'm curious if this is a little too far of a stretch, but I almost interpreted this as life insurance.
It kind of is a little bit.
Do you see the similarities there? I feel like it's a fair analogy.
Well, it's life insurance, but it really, just like life insurance, probably it doesn't help in every case, right? It doesn't help in every case.
It's no
It's
different than
limited.
life insurance, to where you never want to use it.
You never want to use it. You pay for it until you die, and then if you do, life insurance is different, where you actually get it after you die, so you're not getting it; someone else gets it.
Yeah.
At least the umbilical cord, you could use it for yourself or for a child that you care for.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. As far as first of all, kudos to you and Ann.
Did the research, yeah.
Kudos to you, and Ann, not only for doing the research, but actually acting on the research that you've done. Not only you realized maybe you did a nice little family analysis to figure out what's popular from a disease standpoint in your bloodlines appropriately, and then you ultimately just made the decision to go ahead and donate it. So that's actually what the article is almost borderline advocating. And I don't know. I mean, it was Harvard.edu article, Harvard Health.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously a fairly reputable source.
I
But
was going to say not reputable, but okay. Harvard?
I've never heard of him.
Who's that?
Yeah.
School across the country?
I hear they're really cheap. But anyways, it was really interesting because they were saying, hey, yeah, of course, take care of you and your family. But they were advocating for either A, going forward and doing a private bank, or B, go ahead and donating it to the public, because while
Yeah.
you may not have it, it could have the possibility of saving, tens of thousands of kids every year.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
No, it's really neat. I think the umbilical cord one makes a lot of sense. Also, they're starting to find that the amniotic fluid
Yeah.
has stem cells into it. Not collected currently in most cases, but as you can imagine, when a baby is born, there's a lot of just fluid that is around the baby. A lot of people think, water breaks. That's the amniotic fluid. Um, and so there's actually stem cells in
How in the
there.
hell would you go about collecting that?
Well, when the baby comes out, you're getting some fluid.
Yeah, but I'm talking
But yeah,
like,
glass vial, now
yeah,
it's not really sanitary,
yeah,
feels like. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Um, so one that we haven't really talked about where stem cells come from is what they call an embryonic stem cell. This is probably the one that causes the most controversy. And stop me at all, Jared, if I'm wrong on any of this. But from my understanding is that these stem cells come from embryos that are usually about 3 to 5 days of age, so they're very young. And guys, an embryo is essentially a female's egg and a male's sperm after they kind of merge, and
The initial conception.
yeah, and they merge and they become what they call a zygote, right? A zygote. I think some of us have probably remember that from sex education back in like elementary school, probably. So a zygote is essentially the 46 chromosomes.
23 and 23, yeah.
Yeah, match X.
Yep.
Match X. 46 chromosomes. It's first beer. That's why I could do that. But 46 chromosomes that are now essentially a completely new human genome, right? This is a unique DNA that has never been on this planet before. And so now you have this embryo that has been created. It's a couple days old. And during that process, the zygote will go ahead and start mitosis, which is cell replication.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes from a zygote to what they call and it's such a weird word, blastocyst.
Oh, yeah, 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 I remember that.
Is that kind of, you don't?
No,
No.
There's no way you remember that from school.
No, oh, no, I thought you meant in your research.
Oh, no, I didn't come across it.
I was like,
blasphemous. Yeah, my ass.
Blastocyst.
Blastocyst, I'm sorry.
Which is 150 cells. So very, very small,
Oh,
right?
still, literally not even the head of a pin.
Exactly, right? So very small. But still, larger than the original 2 cells. It's 150 cells.
About 75 times larger?
Once it's gotten this big, this is the optimal kind of point in time to go ahead and remove a stem cell from the blastocyst and essentially take that stem cell and put it into what I'm going to call a petri dish.
Call what it is.
Right? Put it in a petri dish and start replicating it. And this is what researchers do all around the world. Anytime that you're receiving stem cell treatment, this is probably the most common way that they're received from. And we'll talk about where they're getting these embryonic stem cells from, of course, in a second. But normally you're taking this embryo and you're going to go ahead and extract a stem cell, one normally, put it in a petri dish, add in some, let's say, kind of proteins and kind of things for it to kind of survive off of.
Yeah.
And then it replicates.
Basically, be the mom.
Yeah.
Be the scientific mom.
Yeah. And it will replicate and replicate and replicate itself and cause, let's say it creates itself 100 or 100,000 of itself. And it will just continually create more and more stem cells, not actually with any type of designation. No muscle cells, no nerve cells, because it's not really, it doesn't have like the DNA to make a full human. It just makes more stem cells.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why I said this is a little controversial is because during the point of removal, the embryo has to die. Right. So the embryo, the blastocyst, the, let's say, zygote that is now, within the first month of living, right? This is the first month of the baby essentially being created. It has to die. There's no way for that embryo to continue living because once you remove one of them, it dies. There's no way around it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it kind of red flags, let's say half the country. Right,
it's about half. Right?
Half the country, or some people that believe that at some point, at conception to baby being born, unfortunately, at one point you have to call a flag and you have to kind of say, "Hey, this is a baby," and so half the country, half the people out there, they say, "Hey guys, you guys are killing embryos." Now, here's where it gets a little weird. Most of those embryos that they're using for research and for stem cell injections and things like that, they were going to be put in the trash anyways. Did you kind of see this?
Meaning they were going to abort the kid?
No, no,
Oh,
no.
that's what I thought you were talking about.
No, maybe you can talk about that a little bit too. Um,
Well,
most of these are actually like in vitro. They're done in test tubes.
okay.
So what I mean by this, guys, is that women, if they're a man or a woman are having challenges, maybe having a baby, they will extract the eggs out of the woman surgically. They'll go into the ovaries, cut them open, remove, let's say, 15 to 20 eggs. They'll get the eggs out. They'll then take some of the man's semen, not via surgically, because it's a little easier to get semen out of a man.
Yep.
Combine those guys in test tubes. So you'll get, let's say, 15 zygotes.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're not going to put all 15 in the female.
No, you probably put like,
two to three.
Yeah.
2 to 3 of them. And you'll kind of, what's it called? Add them back in. I don't know the right terminology.
Inseminate, maybe?
No, there's a term for it. Don't know. But they'll add them back in and to see if any of them will take. All right. Essentially, you're trying to get one of these zygotes to stick to the uterine wall. Let's say one does. Perfect. You're pregnant. Everyone's happy. But back in the lab, you got 15 zygotes sitting in little test tubes all by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with them?
So, a couple options is one, hey, I got my one, I'm good. Throw the rest away. To your point, to be a little morbid, but let's call it what it is.
That happens every single day.
I know,
yeah.
But it doesn't feel uncomfortable saying that kind of truth. You know what I mean? But that is what it is.
Yeah.
And then others, they will pay some type of fee, a storage fee, if you will, and say, hey, I might want a kid 2 or 3 years from now.
Yep. Freeze them.
Just freeze them.
Yep.
And then I will pick, my blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and my brunette and brown-eyed, and
girl, boy. You can pick a lot of that stuff.
You can pick a lot of stuff. You can foresee potential diseases, pitfalls, etc. And that's the whole. I kind of made an allusion to it earlier. This magic baby.
100%. So during this process, you can kind of do this, but you're probably not going to use all of the zygotes.
No.
15 of them?
I would say 99% you will not use them.
Yeah. So maybe you have 2, maybe you have 3. At some point, there has to be a decision to essentially throw them away. And what's the treatment centers that do this? IVF? Or
it's in vitro fertilization is IVF.
In vitro, yeah.
Yeah.
So these centers, these fertilization centers, they say, hey guys, you can continue paying us the freezy fee, $20 a month, or you can donate them to research, and they'll go ahead and reproduce these in a lab, extract the stem cells, and go sell that as a stem cell treatment to somebody, or possibly donate it to a kid that has cancer. And this is where there's like what I would say an ethical dilemma. It's a dilemma. I don't think there's a black and white answer. It's just one of those situations where it feels like, now I know why there's so much controversy around stem cells.
I know.
Right? Would you not call it an ethical dilemma? Because you're saving lives on one hand, but you're possibly ruining lives on the other.
Well, no, you're not possibly. You are ending, a potential life.
And possibly saving lives.
And you're possibly saving.
Yeah. So it's one of those weird ethical dilemmas that I think a lot of, and this is why when I was doing a lot of research and watching videos on this, a lot of these like scientists are like, they feel like they're in a weird spot when they're doing research on this stuff. And you can see why. So.
Let's pause real quick.
Yeah. What do you think? Beer time?
Yep. So we both just cracked our second one. Cracked open our second one. Like Cody said, this is the Goose Island Beer's Hazy Beer Hug. Love the name.
I know.
Kind of a fun little bear with fun little glasses on. I like it. I don't really see the story.
Can,
I'm sure it was in the box or something, but
teal glasses.
So
Chicago.
Yeah. So because my buddy, his name's Mike. He's from Chicago. We were roommates when we were like 22 and 23. I've drank my fair share of Goose Island before, but I've never had the beer hug. I've always had the traditional. I just thought it was like a Goose Island IPA in that classic black and green can or bottle, or yellow.
Yeah, this is a different flavor.
And man, I have some good memories. I've actually gone to Chicago, done a little fun, drank my fair share of Goose Island there, done a little fun little tour, all that good stuff.
Dude, this is actually, did you see on the side here? Brewed and packaged by Goose Island Beer Co. in Chicago and Fort Collins, Colorado. So it's not only a Chicago beer,
Oh,
but
I
it's
didn't
also
know it was a
Colorado
FOCO
beer.
beer.
1988 for being I'm not going to call it a microbrewery, but it's definitely a craft brewery. Um, what is that? 30?
They're one of the OGs of craft beer.
They're in the
Craft beer
Sam
was not
Adams.
34 years old.
Exactly. They're in the Sam Adams category.
I didn't realize
Goose
that.
Island's been around for a long time, it looks like. What are you thinking, man, about this brew? 6.8 alcohol volume.
I was saying, damn, you're going off the scale. Um,
Damn.
so I want to just tell myself a little bit. Like I said, my buddy Mike introduced me to Goose Island 12 years ago, and I loved it.
Okay.
Anytime I see a Goose Island, I
Really?
always get it. I actually, it's probably one of my favorite, like, readily available across the country beers, especially IPAs.
I did not know this.
So I wanted to like this. Well, as soon as I saw Goose Island,
You don't like it? Like twos?
I'm gonna go a pretty weak 2.8. I
Damn.
don't like this actually.
I think this is fantastic. 4.2. Dude, somehow we're able to go opposites on IPAs. That just tells you that IPAs can just range so much in taste. This is such a smooth beer.
4.2.
4.2, buddy. This is a great IPA beer. Jared right now, if you guys are watching him, he is he's debating right now if he's got something wrong with him.
Dude, I wanted to go there. I wanted it. I wanted nothing more. Dude,
Mike, you hearing that, buddy?
I wanted nothing more than getting the fours for this guy. I'd be lying.
Dude, I drink. I'm like, man, this is a great beer. I drank the first one. I had to slow myself down. I did because I was thinking, man, I'm going to go through this thing in 10 minutes. How weird.
Wow. I stand true. I stand true. 2.8.
2.8, 4.2, huge delta there, buddy. One of our largest
That's
deltas.
rare for us.
One of our largest
We've
deltas.
been pretty aligned on a lot.
Now you know what
I would say the only beer that we haven't been relatively aligned with is the beer that actually never made on the air.
well
That dill pickle sour.
yeah, but you know what? Also the raspberry sour that we had. I think that episode just dropped today.
Yeah.
You were really low on that one. I think you were even in
I
the
thought
ones.
I thought it was horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, who made that cucumber
Crush.
sour? Yeah, because I like the cucumber guy, but you gave me the raspberry.
Yeah, that was by Tin
Yeah, I wanted
Tin Brewing.
Tin Barrel.
Tin Barrel Brewing
Tin Barrel
Company.
Brewing Company. I want them to go out of business, but that was just talking about ethical dilemma. Me not protesting them tomorrow is an ethical dilemma.
So, a couple of things that I want to talk about to kind of not demonize these stem cells at all, right? Because there are
Paint the holistic picture.
exactly right, like kind of give the good and the bad. Right now, there are people that are getting stem cell treatments. Hundreds of thousands of people at this point have gotten stem cell treatments. Now, some of these stem cells are bone marrow transplants. This is from a father, a mother, a sibling. I don't think there's any harm done there. There's a little bit of pain. There could be an infection. There's
It's relatively not very invasive at all, actually. Comparatively speaking, it's
yeah,
it's relatively safe.
yeah. No, it's safe, definitely.
Yeah, low infection rate.
Yeah, it's just something that someone's got to stick a needle into your bone and extract things.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Sounds not fun. Like I don't want to have to do it, but if I'm saving somebody else from leukemia, sounds not bad. So when I say hundreds of thousands, it's not like there's hundreds of thousands of people getting stem cells from possible babies. It's hundreds of thousands of people that have got stem cell treatments. Now, stem cells range. We've already talked about adult stem cells are like bone marrow or fat that are extracted from adults. Okay, that's not that big of an ethical dilemma.
No.
Prenatal.
This is a willing adult.
Yep.
Consenting to say, "Yep, I want to do this for them."
Prenatal stem cells. I think this is the most the simplest of all of them. This is using literally waste during the pregnancy process, umbilical cord, amniotic fluids.
Done.
That's an easy one. Embiotic stem cells seem to be the one kind of holding this up. Now, what can you do though if you do extract these stem cells from all different types? Um, type 1 diabetes,
Oh, I thought I read type 2. Okay.
type 1, right? Type
Okay.
2 is not that big of a type 2 is an issue, but normally it's due to life decisions. Type 1 is you're born with,
Yeah,
right? Autoimmune.
yeah, I remember the difference, but I could have sworn maybe I misread,
Yeah.
maybe I misunderstood.
Parkinson's disease treatment.
I did not come across that one.
Different types of scoliosis, Alzheimer's disease, heart diseases,
Yep.
strokes, burns.
And oh, by the way, what is one of the leading causes right now of death in America?
Stroke?
Heart disease, right?
Heart disease. Oh, yeah, number one. Yeah,
Yeah.
number one. Stroke, which is another kind of like a heart disease.
It's up
essentially.
there. I mean, yeah.
Burns, cancer.
On burns.
Burns.
I didn't come across that one either.
Well, if you think about it, your skin.
Get to regenerate, yeah.
Yeah, now you can regenerate skin. How amazing is that? Osteoarthritis. I mean, sorry, not porosis, which is kind of similar to be honest, but osteoarthritis. So these are like life-changing diseases. This is not the flu. This is not a cold. This is not, some type of viral infection. These are things that most people die with or have to live with for a long time and then die miserable.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about cancer, if you think about Parkinson's, if you think about any type of scoliosis or MS, and I'm not going to say the word cure because we don't want to get sued, but it seems like the stem cell treatments reverse a lot of the challenges with those diseases. The word cure essentially kind of makes it feel like it's like 100% fix. I don't know if you can fix anything 100%, but it seems like stem cells almost are there.
It seems like the risk is well worth the reward.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I read in one, I read it in all of my articles. As far as one of the indisputable pros of this is the benefit that you get weighing the relatively low impact from an invasive standpoint.
Oh, it's like a shot in most cases.
Yeah.
Like you're just going to get it inserted into the area of an issue. And this is where I said in the title, I don't know if you saw that, magic.
Yeah.
It feels like kind of magical, like in how it works. Like I get it, there's science behind it and all that kind of stuff. But compared to all other ways you fix this stuff, chemo,
non-surgical,
radiation, cutting you open on the table for 8 hours underneath, anesthesia.
I was just going to say, talking about how you get them there for 8 hours.
Like all these things are extremely invasive, high risk. You do stem cells and it's like, oh wow, this little needle's going to insert into here, or damn. Feels a little magical. When I say magical, it just feels like.
Of course, it's a fun little.
Yeah. What were you kind of finding when you were going through all this stuff?
So I understand, the one that's causing the rift, the one that's causing, the divide, if you will, is of course the embryos.
Yeah.
And I know right before our beer, we talked about the ethical dilemma, I think is what the word that we ended up settling on there. But quite frankly, I don't understand the dilemma. Because to our point, it's just a different discussion. So we can't try to take on the whole world with this podcast, right? Just one episode at a time. But what I mean by that is if you're morally okay with IVF and like treatments, then why is there any point of discussion? Why is there any type of backlash or point of contention with utilizing those unused eggs? Otherwise, that would be frozen until the end of time and or thrown away, more often than not thrown away. Why would you not want those? Yes, I understand you are effectively killing someone, so I get that. But in the same vein, it's not like you're going to have all 15 of them go inside the soon-to-be mother, right? So you are going to be throwing them away, or you are just going to freeze them till the end of time. So in a way, those zygotes, right, to use the proper medical term there, they were never intended to be human beings. Now, if you were to put those in a mother, the theory, the desire, the want, the wish, etc., would be that they would become, but that's also the mom and the dad's decision to only insert 2 or 3 at a time.
Yeah.
And so those other 12, hey, some people that most people probably, I'd be curious to look at the data, so maybe I shouldn't say most, but a reasonable assumption, I would think that going through IVF, you do it one time, you get your kid, and then you don't do it again. I would say that's kind of the not the norm going through it again.
Yeah, it's probably 1 or 2. That's probably where, yeah.
But anyways, okay, so let's just go 2. And let's say that the couple's super fortunate, super blessed. They insert 3 eggs at a time. I think it's 3, but whatever the case may be. So now we're getting put at 9. So those 9 zygotes, either they're going to be frozen till the end of time, never getting the opportunity to actually turn into formidable life.
Yeah.
Or they get thrown away. Or then the no-brainer solution is they get to actually help living people. So that's where I don't understand, because I don't feel like you're ending life. This is very different from the abortion conversation that you and I had.
Yeah.
In that these embryos, these zygotes, were never. It feels so dark to call intended for life, but that's the
Potential.
the only word grouping of words I can come up with. Am I wrong there in saying never intended for life?
It's so weird, maybe because
how do you properly say it?
Potential life, intended for life. It's the problem is the word intended, actually they are intended for life. You just selected the other 2.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a. But then again, guess what? How many sperm go in to fight for that egg?
Depending on your count.
Let's say 1 million.
Yeah, let's call it 1 million.
Okay, so you got 1 million sperm that are fighting because they're all intending to win.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those weird things. It's a numbers game already with the sperm.
What about? I mean, let's call it what it is with the sperm. What about masturbation then?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you're going to be against these zygotes with
are you disposing intended life?
Yeah, I mean, we can take it that extreme because in a way,
they did for a long time. That was a big deal in the United States. There was like a push, I think by the church, I assume.
Oh, I could assume, yeah.
Catholic Church or something like that, right? They probably were like, hey guys, you're killing possible babies. They're like, hey, yo, that's only 23 chromosomes. That is not life yet.
But I see a lot of similarities with this conversation and this argument.
In masturbation. The only thing with the zygotes, right? And again, this is why I call it an ethical dilemma, because there is you're already kind of playing the whole woman's body and man's body. You're playing it a little bit. You're already kind of like
you are playing God with
you're playing whether you believe in Mother Nature, God. I don't care what it is, but guess what? You take an egg and you take a sperm, which normally occur inside a body, and you take it outside and you try to do it in a little petri dish. Yeah. You're not doing how nature intended. Mm-mm. So you're already kind of playing it a little bit. And I look at it, and this is why I say it's an ethical dilemma, because as soon as you add science into that kind of thing, there's something in there that seems a little fuzzy. That's why I called it an ethical dilemma. But now I get your point. Are those, let's say there's 20 of them, and you use 3 of them. Mm-hmm. So you get 17 of them left. Those 17 that are sitting there kind of frozen up, their potential for life. There is potential for life, but there's not 17.
So, and that's where I'm getting mad, and that's why I'm actually kind of happy that I'm okay with the potential for life. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that verbiage. And the reason why I don't think there's much of a dilemma is because those 17 zygotes have the opportunity to enhance 17 other people's bodies. It's
true. They get to be part
of it. So that life goes on. They literally do get to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to dismiss this ethical dilemma, at least in the mind of Jared.
Okay.
I didn't really see the ethical dilemma there.
Here's where it gets a little fuzzy. I'm just going to add a little sci-fi into the mix here.
Let's do it.
Why not?
Yeah.
I've mentioned this book many of times, and Mr. Hazy Bear Hug has kind of helped me out here and not making me remember it. So in this scientific world, or this future world, He writes about
Oh, they were taking the somas.
yes, yes, soma drug, and all babies are born in essentially test tubes.
Shit, I
So I just saw. This is why I'm bringing this up because it is sci-fi. But this week, I don't know if you saw this. Jerry News actually
Brave New
announced
World.
this. Brave New World. So in Brave New World,
Come on.
all humans are born in test tubes, right? Essentially, females and males, they provide their, needed chromosomes and they go on living their world. And then everybody is born and then essentially provided parents. They're not actually born to parents. I think it's one of the best books I've ever written. Best books.
You wish.
I know, right?
We would
One of
be
the
friends.
one of the best books that I've ever actually read. Honestly, I refer to it and I've read it multiple times now.
You've recommended that book a lot
A
of times.
lot.
I feel like various people.
Yeah, Brave New World. It is a fantastic book. It came to light this week. It was either last week or this week. They took a lamb or sheep, I believe, and they put it in an artificial. They took a zygote from a lamb because it's a mammal, same thing. They put it in an artificial artificial womb with the placenta, and they lab grew the entire lamb, a living lamb, and gave birth to it.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So they were able to take something from, two donors, you could say, and create it from, and never have the woman in there again. The woman's body fully functions. I see that, and I'm just wondering, where does this road go? Does it go to all those zygotes that you give away? Could one of them all of a sudden maybe be given to a laboratory that generates a baby?
Well,
That's kind of weird, right?
so here's where I think the dilemma comes. We talked about this.
Third beer sci-fi here. I love this.
So I'm not going down the sci-fi. I'm
Oh,
actually going to go down the economic piece.
Oh, okay.
So we talked about this. I'd be lying if I said I could. Oh, in episode 33. The Social Security episode.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the biggest pitfalls, downfalls, etc., whatever you want to call it, of Social Security today is the fact that people are living longer than when it was created.
And our population's not growing at the same rate. Yeah.
So now
Oh my.
you have stem cells in the mix, and now people are going to start healing from leukemia, healing from type 1 diabetes, healing from,
Oh,
bone
I thought you were
cancer.
going a little. Okay, that's already happening. I thought you were going to say now we're going to be producing more people in this artificial womb.
Well, so I could have went there. I could have went there,
okay.
but I just that's a little too much.
Okay.
I was actually talking more so that people are going to inevitably live longer.
Yeah.
The more natural adoption that the stem cell research gets, it's going to put our country. I'm not going to say the world because I don't know.
In a very weird predicament.
I'm not too familiar with the other social programs are from a social security standpoint with other countries in the world. But what I can speak to is the U.S. And if our average life expectancy in the U.S. grows from, I believe today it's 74, 75 in that area. If it increases, let's say it increases 5 years. Holy shit.
Oh,
You know what that would do to Social Security?
massive impacts.
So, I think there's a huge economic play. And I know this sounds incredibly morbid,
Like,
oh, Jared, you don't want people to live longer? No, I don't. I don't.
well, I don't know if I agree with that point, guys.
What do you mean?
I don't care.
You think
I don't.
from a society standpoint, we can afford for people as a whole to live longer?
So I think we can afford for people to live longer as long as we have more babies.
Well, that takes 18 years
Yep.
for them to generate even a fraction.
Honestly, it takes 18 seconds for some to generate, and then it takes 18 years for it to.
For them to economically produce.
Yeah, 18 years after. Yeah.
Okay. You don't think we'd be in a world of hurt?
No, I don't. Well, right now we're in a weird predicament, right? Luckily,
you don't think that we would in order to properly support, this, let's just call it stem cells allows people to average age is 100. You
So
think we have all of the means here to naturally produce enough food, enough water? Yeah, because Arizona's never in a drought. California's never in a drought. You think our population could grow?
oh yeah. No, I don't think we're in a population issue. I think we're actually in a population collapse issue. I think we need more people. Um, we should do a population episode. So I know there are yeah, right on the list because I'm starting to get sick of our list not looking like it's got a lot on there. I actually had one today. So right on the list,
I'm doing
population,
them right now.
more or less. What should we have? Um, but to Jared's point, he's saying, hey, do we have maybe too many people? And I think he's actually on the side of maybe we do, maybe we are. And I was thinking if our population in the United States decreases year over year, economy collapses,
Yes.
right? I don't think people realize this. It's kind of funny that all these companies try so hard. All of these Fortune 500 companies try so hard every year, right, to increase their revenue, increase their profits by 5% or whatever it is. Let's say 3%. What does the population grow every year in? 3%. Well, that's weird. That's 3% more buyers.
Well, so guys, what it is, a very popular metric that's not often talked about on Wall Street, and I know Cody's come across it 1,000 times with his clients, is the average age of your client, customer, member, etc. Because if that age is going up every year,
That's a problem.
it's not a problem, it's a death sentence.
Here's a weird one. So Elon Musk the other day, he said the number one metric that he likes to look at.
Did he tweet it?
No, I don't think so. It was in an interview. The number one metric that he tracks as
That's another episode I'm going to add. This whole Twitter issue, because
Oh.
people have gotten just
a little
crazy over
okay.
this. Okay.
So what he mentioned in an interview I was watching, the metric that he is worried about is the amount of adult diapers sold versus child diapers. So in some countries, more adult diapers are now sold than children diapers. Again, more adult diapers are sold than child diapers. That means there are more 75 plus year olds than babies. Your country is going into zero world. That's what that means. Your country is going, it literally is on the way to zero, which is kind of weird to think about. Does zero sound good? No.
No.
So that's weird. Now here's a weird thing. That's why
What a weird metric to track.
diapers. So Japan's in the situation.
Age of diapers purchased.
Japan isn't. So Depends is the adult diaper brand versus like Huggies or Pampers. There are more Depends sold in Japan than the other two because there are more people older than 75 or whoever's using these older diapers than babies. Nobody's having babies in Japan. In America, to your point, I'm going to push back a little bit. We'll do more on our population. I'm going to just quickly say we have a unique advantage where we are able to take in people that are not babies every year to help supplement our low birth rate via immigration.
I was just to say, are you okay? I didn't know if you were going to actually say it. I knew where you were going.
We are in a very cool situation where America is extremely desirable to move to.
I'm kind of annoyed that you already did that because I thought that was actually going to be the first argument that I was going to attack you at with this episode was the fact that our population increases so vastly every year now.
It's because of our integration. So we're able to America is I think 1.8 replacement rate, meaning that for every two people that are married or a couple, they have 1.8 children. That means that we don't have a good replacement rate.
Actually, speaking of Jerry News, did you see? I believe it was a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, at least a month ago by the time this airs, is we officially reached 8 billion as
For the whole world.
global population.
Yeah. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
So did you see that all of the world projections for our population have all decreased?
Oh, I did see that. That was a few months ago, if I remember.
Kind of
right.
scary.
Yeah.
What that means is essentially people are not having babies, right? You're having, couples are having one baby, two
Right.
babies.
It's it's actually kind of interesting because it's not always by choice. We've talked about, plastics, whether it's laptops being on, your laps and things
Dude,
like that. It's not always by choice. Yes, there is
no.
a generational shift as far as, the
Women waiting longer. Yeah.
family values, women careers, etc. We've talked about this in kind of compartmentalized, if you will, throughout our various episodes. But yeah, I mean, decreasing population is a scary, scary topic.
Well, you got to take that side because it
Oh,
sounds
I
like.
have no problem taking it. It's still scary though.
Okay, keep on going here, buddy. Let's get back on topic.
Okay. So let's see. So I know we talked about, this ethical dilemma. I feel like you and I feel like the world for that matter is fairly aligned on, the two ways that we can get it, whether it's, through, the cord blood or, just these daughter cells, etc. But the embryos, I don't know if we have a real problem. I mean, if these babies are going to have the opportunity to help someone, I can't see the problem there. And that's where I'm going to push back on this ethical dilemma because I understand I understand it's in a way killing a potential life. And these egg and these sperm were put in this petri dish for a potential life, and then for one reason or another, they weren't used. So whenever given the option, trash can and or helping an underprivileged person, an unfortunate person, around the world, around the country, etc. I don't really see the dilemma in that.
No, no. I think I agree there. I think, and this is something that shifted even in federal policy and a NIH policy. We've been able to do research for stem cells for the last 10 years. I think 2009 or 2010, the Obama administration
That should not
reversed.
be 10 years ago, first of all.
No, isn't that crazy? The Obama administration switched up some of that stuff, right? Where they essentially redacted a lot of the Bush administration, where they essentially stopped funding. They said, "Hey guys, you guys are not allowed to do any research on stem cells. We believe this to be, essentially kind of aborting zygotes or aborting, babies. So we're not going to do it." The Obama administration came in and they said, "Hey, we're going to redact this. We're going to allow funding because we do believe it." To Jared's point, there are life-saving potential that is getting thrown out because that's what was happening, right? Parents were going into getting, they were still getting IVF treatment, they were still getting fertilization treatment, and then all of those 15 or 16 fertilized eggs were having to be thrown away. To Jared's point, people are still going to do that, right? Unless that becomes illegal, unless that becomes something that is demonized or something that is like, hey, should we even be doing this? If you're going to get any type of fertilization treatment and there's going to be extra um, stem cells, extra zygotes, then don't throw them away. Like it's gonna happen. Like
But
you're
so,
not
so
gonna have
you just
15.
freeze them to the end of time.
But you're gonna die. Someone's gonna stop paying the bill.
Yeah.
So either you're going to freeze them until you die and then they get thrown away, or you are going to say, hey, yep, we're good with 2 kids, unfreeze them, use them to create a stem line and help out lots of people.
So that's what I'm saying. I world according to Jared, I don't see the dilemma here. So I guess as
Yeah.
I'm about halfway done this third beer. Is it time for opinions?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think definitely. Let me make sure I went through everything here on my side here.
So I mean, as you go through that, man, I'm going to go far and say, you know, I'm not refuting the fact that there's a rift or a divide. All I'm saying is the world according to Jared, I personally don't see it. I see a lot of pros to stem cell, and I think the cons are relatively minimal in comparison. So I am a stem cell person. No, no, I am for stem cell.
Jared was created from stem cells, as we all were,
I
and
mean,
we
true,
and we still
just
all are.
organically.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, I guess. I don't know.
Just so there's a difference between organic and not organic stem cells?
I guess there's not a scientific difference.
No, not really, right? That's kind of the key. That's the idea. That's kind
Good
of the
point.
cool thing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a good point.
We all are born from stem cells. Yeah, I didn't know where I was going to land here, buddy. I had no idea. I did
So
all the
I didn't
research.
either.
Yeah.
Because honestly, whenever I started talking about, the designer babies and shit like that, that's kind of different conversation, different topic.
We should do that, huh? Want to do designer baby? It's a hard one. Is it sensitive?
I don't think it's sensitive.
Okay.
Um,
And just so you guys know, what designer baby is hey, we go through, treatment, fertilization treatment, and we look at the DNA here, and this this child has the I don't know what's the genome that will present as blue eyes. Well, we're going to choose that zygote
yeah. those
and
those
implant
blue
that
eye
one.
those blue eyed babies are they're pretty.
They are. They are.
Cody agrees.
I have two blue-eyed babies,
Yeah,
so I looked out there. At least if you believe in, blue eyes being better. I like blue eyes.
I'm a big fan of blue eyes.
They're rare. My wife says green eyes are actually the most rare and the best.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But
I just
yeah, the designer babies, that's kind of a cool one. I think there's a good conversation there because some countries are kind of going a little bit over the top with it, where they're they're actually manipulating the genes to have certain things. And China has gotten in trouble with this with some scientists and doctors.
That's something we need to talk about.
China.
What's going on in China right now?
Ooh, we could do that. You want to skip?
Welding doors shut.
Oh, we could do that. You want to do? Let's do that. We'll skip episodes.
Holy shit! I've seen some videos the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Dude.
Let's record next week and we'll release it that week too, because it's kind of relevant time wise. Okay, so opinion on stem cells. I've thought about getting stem cell treatment a couple times. Personally.
Oh, with your knee?
Yeah, personally. It's not extremely expensive. They've started becoming more and more common here in the United States. And, I've thought about getting it just to see if it would help improve. And just so you guys know, I've had ACL tears. I've had some LCL tears in my knees. And so just in general, I'm not saying that I'm in like horrific pain. 30 years old, 31 years old.
31 by the time this airs, big dog.
Oh, damn. Shit. So I was 31 years old. And I have more knee problems than most 31-year-olds probably want to. But in general, I'm not in pain. And so it's one of those things that I've kind of contemplated. Hey, would this help? It probably won't hinder, to your point. But it is kind of expensive. It's like expensive. I could see why, too, after doing a lot of this research. The ethical component never came up in me using of stem cells. Personally. Right? So that's interesting to think about, right? I've never thought about, should I go get stem cells? Ooh,
You don't understand where they come from. So it's actually very similar in a lot of these podcasts that we talked about from a financial standpoint,
Exactly.
from a welfare. You don't realize that it's your neighbor that you're getting money from.
And that's where, when I started doing the research, I started thinking about it. Do I want to incentivize this program?
And what he's talking about by incentivizing is whenever you use it, whenever you pay for it, clearly you're creating the demand for it.
I'm creating a market now for...
Creating a market, that's a better word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm creating a market now for donated zygotes. Let's be honest.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah. I'm creating a market for women to provide their eggs that are now fertilized by a male to be essentially put in a petri dish to never live and be removed from stem cell. And that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to create a market for it. Now, I'm personally looking at myself at 30 years old and saying, "Oh, I'm not really in that much pain. I'm not really removed from doing anything excessive." And I do some stuff that's pretty crazy. Like, it's not like I live a sedimentary, sheltered, sedimentary type of lifestyle, right? I do things that are pretty hard. Like, I lift heavy weights, go to the gym pretty active. I do mostly active stuff. So it's not like I'm like in one of those situations. I'm a little bit of pain on my knees sore a little bit today. And I probably could go spend the money to do it if I wanted to. But I still am kind of in those weird spot where I'm like, I don't know if I really want to create a market for it. And I've kind of thought about this stuff for a lot of medical things. And I've always pushed back on medical operations and stuff like that. In general, I'm like, I think that stuff is probably more, there's more risk than reward at this point. But man, stem cells seem like very rewarding. To your point, you said this. There's a lot of reward versus risk.
Yeah, dude, I would pick stem cell 100 times out of 100 if given the option between stem cell or surgery.
Yeah.
Dude, surgeries suck.
So imagine, because you've been having some back problems.
Oh yeah.
So imagine you go to the doctor and they say, hey, you know what? We're going to fuse, L3, L4. And everyone, I don't know
I
if
won't do it.
exactly. But let's just say
No,
that's
dude,
what they
they've
recommend.
been asking me for years.
Yeah. So for most people listening, fusing means they're literally going to melt two of your vertebrae together. There's a reason they're not together when you're born. They're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
They're supposed to bend. There's a lot of people now getting stem cells inserted directly into their spinal cord to repair that area. If they recommended that to you, do you think you would do it tomorrow?
A stem cell?
Yeah, let's say it's within arm's reach for dollars, and they recommended that, and they said, hey, you know what? 80% of your pain is going to go away. You're still going to have a little bit of stuff. No long-term risk.
Dude, if you could take away 80% of my back pain, I would do it tonight, not tomorrow. I'll drive to the doctor tonight.
Okay.
I would.
So there's a
honestly,
big reward.
between my back, knee, and shoulders, and guys, just to let you know, I've had surgeries galore. College football treated me rough. Shout out to painkillers, I guess. But yeah, I honestly, after doing this research, I'm actually going to start having a little bit more actual next step conversations with my doctor.
Yeah, it's weird that normal doctors. This is where science kind of sucks. All the doctors that you talk to, our listeners, myself, Jared, when were they educated?
20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Were stem cells a thing?
Nope.
Exactly.
So they're not comfortable about it. But if you weren't educated about it, why the hell would you recommend? Because if you can't answer a second order effect question,
bingo. Now all of a sudden you seem unsure, and all of a sudden now there's
you lose
risk.
confidence, and I go to another doctor.
Exactly. And so most doctors don't talk about it. They talk about what they know. Drugs, surgery.
I'll say they all know frickin' painkillers, man.
Drugs, surgery. And so stem cell doctors are kind of a rarity. And there's probably, I would say, one or two, and I was doing research on this, one or two large stem cell clinics in each metro area, big metro areas. So like Phoenix, Mayo Clinic. I think most people know Mayo Clinic. Guess what? We have a Mayo Clinic here in Scottsdale. They do a couple hundred stem cell injections every year. And they believe it to be kind of like the next wave. They do a lot of research on it and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a hard opinion on this one. I think it's one of those things that feels like I do believe there is a little bit of an ethical dilemma personally. The last thing I want to see is, and this is weird, there's a reason. Okay, right now you have how many kidneys?
2.
How many do you need?
1.
Okay, can you go sell your kidney?
I tried. I'm kidding. No.
Why? Do you know why?
I don't know why.
Okay, so not all countries ban this, but the United States banned this. You cannot sell any kidney. You can donate it. The reason being why?
You don't want to encourage backdoor surgeries?
Black market. You don't want to encourage a black market. So no organs or bodily fluids can be sold. And this is where I think there is an ethical dilemma that a lot of people don't believe. I think there's even a further ethical dilemma. I think most people look at it at surface level, you're killing a baby. Mm-hmm. And I say, yeah, possibly. Even if that's happening, you are possibly saving lives. The last thing I want to do is create a market where there is an excess of possibly killing babies.
Of course not.
Right? Where people go like this, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get this egg surgery.
I'm going to go ahead and get knocked up just so I can donate it.
Bingo.
Or sell it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm kind of like fuzzy. I don't want to endorse it. If that makes sense.
I can appreciate that.
I don't want to endorse it.
But you're king for a day.
I don't want to create laws for it. I don't want to say, hey, you can get paid for this.
So, all right, I'm not going to let you take that sissy way out. By you not creating laws for it, are you going to create laws against it? I look. I know it's not a fun question,
Yeah.
but you know that's a sissy way out. Saying I'm not going to create laws against it or for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I would never create laws against the adult stem cells. I don't think I would ever create laws against the what I would call prenatal stem cells. I think they call it, which is the amniotic fluid
Yep.
and umbilical cord. The embiotic stem cells, which is the most controversial, I think there should be some laws around it, and there already currently is. Thinking hard on this one, man.
I know, man. It's hard.
Yeah, I I think it should be regulated heavily. To be honest, I think it should be regulated really heavily. Um, and the reason I think it'd be regulated heavily is that I think it makes people rethink their life choices. And what I mean by that is we talked about how people have challenges having children. And we've talked about how some of those things have to do with life choices. Some of them don't. I get it. But some of them has to do with our diet. Some of it have to do with plastics and things like that. Um, the last thing I want to do is ever make sure that there's policies in place that incentivize bad use of our bodies that have repercussions for long-term health of the entire country or population or economy. And so I don't want to incentivize people to say, oh, if I lose my job, if I don't work hard, don't worry, I have a safety net. And right now we have that. And I don't want us to have the same thing with our reproduction of our society. Right. And right now we kind of, Japan's already in this situation. Right. I don't want America to go into the spot where we treat our bodies like crap and then or even worse and treat our bodies like crap. We decide that we're going to somehow defeat God or defeat nature and have babies in our 40s. Right? You see these movie stars that do this.
Oh yeah.
And they defeat a lot of what nature determines is proper.
Correct.
And I don't think we want to create a society with a bunch of women that are getting pregnant in their 40s.
Absolutely not.
And so when you incentivize kind of that kind of culture, I think we go down that rabbit hole, and long term, bad news. And it's funny, people don't think about it in they think about it in their lifespan. But if you take it 2 generations downstream, which we'll talk about in our population episode,
We will.
ooh, imagine your children's future. If all women decide to have children in their 40s, they will not have a child until they're 40. Okay, well, increase birth defects, increase infertility. Their generation now is kneecapped.
Increase lack of mother support.
They're dead.
Exactly.
Their father's dead.
Yeah.
Their family support is zero. So the societal impacts are compounding. And so I don't want to incentivize it. I just don't know the right rule structure around it.
So right now you're not willing to incentivize or disincentivize it.
Yeah. I would disincentivize it somehow. A little bit.
Okay.
I would say, dude, so hard.
I know.
It's so hard.
I know.
I
What do you
think-
do? Use a bigger gauge needle to make it hurt a little bit more? I don't know. How do you disincentivize it, man?
It's funny because the best way to disincentivize things is make them more expensive. But man, that kind of fertility treatment is extremely expensive already.
100 grand. Can be at least.
Fuck. Guys, I'm sorry. I don't have a good answer here, and it's probably because I'm not well versed on how a lot of these treatments work. Maybe this is a sensitive one, I know, for our fucking listeners, but in vitro treatment, man, that
Oh, I
was
know.
a sensitive one. Okay, dude, we are at our hour.
Yeah.
You got anything else, or do you? Am I missing
No,
something?
I'm actually really excited that we were able to come up with a couple different further second order podcasts.
Yeah,
Come on.
derive. Yeah, two
Yeah,
of them.
Derive, thank you. Derive a couple of them, whether it's, the Twitter, whether it's population growth. So I'm excited about that. I think that's kind of fun. Guys, please, we love interacting with you guys, whether we post silly polls about, hey, show me your voting sticker, or, give me, of course, different podcast recommendations. Cody and I, we love interacting with our listeners. We love interacting, making sure that we are, you know, our opinions are opinions. However, hopefully, as we've displayed over this last year, is we can evolve our opinions.
Oh
Whether it's
yeah.
we evolve our opinions over an hour discussion, or we evolve our opinions over hours of research, or of course, listener interaction. So we love it, guys. Keep them coming. Until next Tuesday, right?
Later, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.